Students that
Oh, yeah.
you're going, yeah, you keep it. Yeah. I don't know.
It was
You're
just
like, okay.
So,
It was right here on this dude was broken it was really scary. It looked fun.
it wasn't like it.
No. It was just your kid.
And I will have his program. So,
Welcome to the Northwest Art Center for the opening reception for From Here to Here by Matthew Anderson and Michael Conlon. They'll be joining us shortly via Zoom.
I found a photo.
This is not
The screen.
Yeah.
So, measuring the shots. So this is. I take a photograph it, it's printed it out on my office printer, on your paper, and then you take, so it's a paper negative print. So, yeah, but you can see like,
Yeah.
the paper green.
Yeah.
It came out pretty good. I think it's still water, I think it's still water on the surface.
Oh, okay.
It's a fun little translation. Last class. Yeah. And there's other people. This was smartphone. So we were just, I was just showing it's also for ways that you can see for digital photos. I don't do that in more conservative picture.
Yeah, I really like your choice. At first, I didn't like it because of the work, but I really like it now, so I'm probably gonna use it.
Yeah, once you get past that, stuff.
Yeah, I have never used it.
But you've gotten it to be expressive.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt.
Really, all charts.
Not too bad. How are you doing?
It's pretty, I mean,
I'm doing all right. Good to be here.
Yeah.
You know, there.
So
Same time.
welcome to the gallery. Hey, Michael. So I have the TV carts set up and I'm joined by Ryan. So you can kind of see there. And then split Matt's is on the outer gallery on the kind of south side. Michael's is on the inner gallery in the kind of northeast section. And Sally has a phone connected so you guys can check out, you see the pieces. We're showing we do a walkthrough of the work. And then we'll have kind of just gallery artist talk for the students that are here and guests at 7:00. So. Good.
How are you guys doing?
Good to see you, Ryan. I just switched my view so I can see all the screens now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
I just got out of class and walked over. So,
What class?
smartphone photography. But we were in the dark room tonight. So the intention was I was going to try and print out negatives from their digital shots from their smartphone You go and print that in the dark room. And I couldn't get them printed well today, so I said, screw it, we're gonna do photograms instead.
It's a class to rope more people into photography.
Yeah, we'll see.
Sure.
I'll stay for like, I have already been.
You know. So what are you guys up to these days?
You know, just getting ready for summer. It's coming. Where?
Still got a pile of snow on the ground.
How's the flooding?
It happened. It's going down.
Is it going down already?
Yeah, it's going down. I mean, the red is still going to crest. Well, maybe it's already happened. But like the overland stuff, like just the really wet, everybody's in a mess. That's pretty down. But yeah, I was seeing Donovan and Shannon's studio. That looked like that was unfortunate. But
How much water did they get in there?
I thought it was like 4 or 5 inches just over the floor. But they said they didn't lose anything. But you know,
I think they were kind of expecting it, weren't they? Because they
yeah, and it was just like a sewer drain, right? Like a big storm drain that got plugged. You know, if it wouldn't have been for that, they would have been okay. But that's pretty common. There's so much, like, you know, out here in the country, there's so many culverts that got plugged up that it just took out, like, there's gravel roads that like washed out all over the place. And then Greg Senior is telling me today that the governor is proposing a, what is it, like state of emergency for North Dakota because of all the gravel roads that are flooded out. The blacktops aren't too bad, but like you get out, like these farmers are dealing with roads that have just, you know, they're being cut through to let the water go over, and it's just from border to border. So
Can you hear me now, Matt?
Yeah, yes.
I can hear you now.
Got it now. There we go. All right.
Where,
Since I didn't
Where are
say it earlier, hello.
hey, you're on campus, but where?
What's that?
You're on campus right now,
Yes.
right? Where are you?
I'm in my office / studio right next to Metals. So if you hear some banging, I will definitely hit mute.
I can't quite place it. You got a window.
Yes.
Next to
Do you remember Anita's old
This-
office?
Anita's.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we took down all the shelving and everything. So now it's just nice big open space, or as big as we have, right? So, and
Yeah.
I'll be up here for another, I don't know, 6 months, and then hopefully move downstairs.
Okay.
Patrick moves out. So
When what?
when Patrick actually moves out of his space,
Okay. So he'll be done when?
I think the end of the year.
Okay.
So 31st, I think, of December.
Okay. Yeah. And how's teaching?
Going there.
And how's teaching?
Fantastic. We got some really fun projects happening right now. So really excited. We're doing a lot of installations.
Okay.
And so we're just occupying the hallways, and we're just making this place look as active as possible. It's super fun.
Good.
So the faculty are already like, what's going on? We got color on our white walls and all this stuff. It's pretty good.
Yeah, remember you were saying, you know, like when you came out here, you commented on all the student work on the walls and stuff. Because there was, UND just doesn't have that.
No.
So
Yeah, it's quite the sterile environment. So trying to liven it up a little bit. And we're getting good feedback, so that's good.
that's good. Yeah. 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 Well, we are busy packing our departments, well, the whole building really, because it's getting renovated this next year. So everything has to go. And
What are you guys doing? Are you getting a new building or just renovation?
complete renovation, but we're out for 1 year. And so we're like across campus.
We're gonna be in like three different buildings. We have the ceramic studio in Pioneer Hall, and our printmaking is gonna move down next to that. We're gonna be teaching in our Swain, which is education and psychology and what else is.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, and we have to be completely out by June 1st, like the entire building has to be empty unless it stays there and gets thrown away.
Yeah.
But
Well, we have to pack it. We don't have to move it.
package,
There's
tape,
coming in.
label everything. And
So what are you doing for the dark room?
No darkroom next year.
no
So
no
we're
traditional
without it.
or-
But it will come back a little bit larger and with ventilation this time. So everything will have ventilation. Which we think is- But yeah, it's a pretty big, working with the architects, reshuffling classrooms and trying to maximize our space. And do you remember that commons area where those desks were facing the windows on that north side?
Yep.
But they're gonna bump that out like 3 times as big. So we'll have this huge commons area and hopefully student studios in there. We're kind of fighting for that right now, but I think it'll be nice. So, a year of discomfort, but ultimately for the better.
long overdue because it's the oldest building on campus that hasn't been renovated. So
Oh, wow.
74 or something like that.
And Ryan, you're used to renovations, right? Your house, you've done a lot of those.
Yeah,
And that's taken a lot longer than a year.
yeah. Yeah. But I was doing it myself too, so. Oh, there's lots of projects not done yet. But yeah, I'm a little nervous about the supply chain crap and will it actually get done in time? I don't know. But I'm thankful the state decided to throw some money at the building and
Yep.
finally bring it up to a good point, so. But
We were told that the state won't touch our building for 30 years.
your building for 30 years, okay,
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's kind of fun.
yeah.
At least we know what we have, right?
You got ventilation, you're ahead of us, so
We do have ventilation, yes.
no one uses it. Yeah, I can just hear Kim swearing about that, like as soon as he leaves, it goes in, like,
Yep.
so that's so sad.
Oh,
Yeah. Well. Have you been watching Sally walk around with the camera?
A little bit good to see. Don't.
so how did the show hold up after traveling? Are the frames all beat up? Is it okay?
Pretty good, actually. Sally and one of our interns conditioned it when it came in, and I don't know how much of note there was, but when we were installing, it didn't look like there was any damage. There might be a couple of little dents from hardware or something where maybe didn't get set front to front or back to back, but
Yeah.
otherwise really good. Matt, your pieces held up pretty well too. Although the deterioration on them is, something that you weren't too worried about.
No,
Maybe.
that's what happens when you burn the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burn the edges and just look in the carton and just like, yeah, there's a little bit of charcoal down there.
Yeah.
No major incidents at all. So that's pretty good. Traveled well. And it was packed pretty well too. So
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen the space yet, so I plan to make the trip over and help deinstall, because I'd like to take some photos of it too.
Yeah,
While it's still up, and then, yeah, I'll help you guys deinstall and pack it up and bring it home.
That
Just let
works.
me know what dates work best for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, just stay around an extra day, pack some boxes in the department.
Yeah, you could,
Sure,
We'll pay you $12 an hour. You're probably already in the system, so.
there you go. I'm pretty good with packing tape, so yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, well, if you do come out to the studio, we'll go down and save an extra hour. We'll go do some clothing for a little bit.
Absolutely. No, that'd be fun.
I took my smartphone class down there the other day and did shots with them, and I think I finally got the lighting dialed in. Added a third strobe. I've got the university strobe, and I think I'm on track now after 2 months of kind of experimentation with the light and just can't get it right. But yeah,
And how long are you down there then?
I started in December, and so it's a year and a half.
Okay.
I've got a good while, yeah. And hopefully this summer I'll actually have time. This semester teaching an overload, I had no time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas and even people that want to sit for portraits, so
Mhm.
just got to do it. Yeah, since everyone's packing up, I've just been like pilfering things from the theater department for props. So I've got this big tub of dresses and
you and me both.
and chairs and some. I need to go look for some sport coats and different clothes for guys, but
Mm.
There's enough period clothing in there that you could just like, oh, just, we'll give it back when they redo the costume shop in the front of it. But they don't need all these like, silver. No. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting, because as soon as finals week is when we're going to start packing everything in earnest, all the classrooms, all the equipment, all the supplies, and hopefully have a plan for where everything's going at that point.
yeah, that's the hard thing. Some of the spaces aren't ready for us to move in.
So we can't start
So it
moving
goes to
things.
a third spot for the summer and then move in as those spaces become available. So
Yeah.
it's even more cumbersome. But my office is going to be like 2 times bigger, maybe 3 times bigger. So that's nice. We'll have a studio attached, like
Super great.
like-
Yeah.
So that's the plan right now, unless they change it up last minute and
Yeah.
crush our spirits.
Yeah, I know when Donovan offered me an office, I just knew I'd have to cram the office part as small as possible and then use the rest of the studio. And it's working so far, but plus I also have the whole wood shop and all the studio spaces downstairs to help out too. So
Yeah.
it's really nice having studio space again. It's not my basement.
So is Patrick still around much at all? Or
No, he's down in Des Moines now. So he's
Yes.
actually coming, he's gonna be in town Saturday. He's
okay,
he's coming up for the weekend and he's heading right back down on Monday.
okay.
So yeah, they sold their house, they bought a new one down there and
Good.
living the Iowa dream. Wait for the farmer's market to open back up in Des Moines and good to go.
Yeah, well, when we go down there, I'll have to look him up, and we got to get down there to see my family sometime this summer. So
There you go. Yep. No, he'd like that a lot, I think.
yeah,
I have a nice home in well, what neighborhood is that? I think it's just to the north. west of the art center.
Okay.
So they're still in the thick of it, right? They're not out in the suburbs or anything like that, so that's good.
Yeah.
Because the same, it's
So Matt, how's the museum doing with the transition from Laurel to Matt?
You know, it's really good to get a whole bunch of momentum again. You know, because making that transition, it's a long process, but finally kind of having the decision being made. I mean, it's just green lights all over the place now, like shows coming in.
It's almost.
I mean, there's just movement everywhere, which is really nice. I mean, there's always a learning curve, you know, and everybody's got to adjust, but that was going to happen, you know, no matter what. So yeah, it's feels good to be moving again.
Are they hiring somebody into his position, his former position, or what's happening with that?
I don't know. I think there's just lots in the air about like how to kind of divide things out, because you know Laurel's position was too complicated. I mean, it's what happens when you do something for 50 years. You just keep on taking it on and taking it on and taking it on. Where, yeah, we could use a grant writer. You know, you almost need like a finance officer. You need, you know, a development officer. There's 3 or 4 or 5 positions, but really, right now it's just kind of. I think it's just that time to figure things out. So while there's a lot of momentum for you know, getting projects off the ground that have been sitting there for a little bit, this is also at the same time, it's a time to just kind of pause and take some time to think about the direction that we're going to go.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's, if anything, like it's just been, you know, I mean, just for me, like I'm just along for the ride. It's it's been, you know, it's I think there's a lot of learning happening all around.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Man, Greg, I like the way you guys hung this show.
Well,
It's really different. Like I've seen pictures of everywhere else, and you know, picking it up from Anna was cool. I did a Zoom talk with her, and they had like you know, I sort of mixed it up. I don't know how else to say that, but our pieces weren't, Mike and I's pieces weren't separate, right? And it's that works too. It's just fun to see how different places
And
show.
so one of the things,
this is cool.
and I don't know if, so like when we hung it, we actually had, and how we hung it is kind of just a product of the situation. We had 2 hours to hang it because all week this week, every week we have events in the art center. So we had 2 hours to hang the show, 2 hours to take Sharon Linehan's show down and hang.
Yeah.
But I forget, someone had, and maybe this is incorrect, but someone had told me that you actually preferred to have them opposing, not necessarily mixed or hung together, because I can see it would work. If I did that, I'd want to do maybe groupings of, you know, 2 to 3 Mike's pieces, 2 to 3 of yours, or like have them kind of mixed in that faction. But we had we kind of have 2 wings to this outer gallery, and it's effective because, you know, I could maybe give a pan over with I've got you guys on kind of a cart here, but you can see that here we've got one of yours, Matt, here, but then Mike's start and 10 go into that alcove and then come over on. And I mean, it works really well. It worked for the size of the work, the quantity of the work. We hung your unframed drawings as
Perfect.
both as a grouping, because I thought that it was really effective for those, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And then as far as
Looks really good.
as far as kind of the ordering them for mics, we just kind of looked at color relationships between them, where you had either shape or color combinations that just kind of, so got some that bridge across, kind of merge into other areas, and then relationships with just the color and the shape. And then yours, I was like, I'm just gonna spin it like the wheel. So we went southwestern, western,
Yeah.
or no, southwestern, south, southeastern, east, northeastern, north,
Yeah.
northwestern. And then west is on the end. So, yeah. So I just looking at them as like almost like you're standing and facing different directions, kind of in looking at a landscape. So
Yeah, that's really even though you said you only had 2 hours to change things out.
and
think
help.
it
It wasn't just me. We had some students too. So but it was
Yeah,
good.
but that interpretation, I think, is really, like I said, I like to see things being, however, all the different galleries have interpreted these works, but I think in this space, probably the closest to at least how I was imagining how things would be displayed. Like I said, I like to see things. It's been nice at the other places too, but this is like, I like the way this has been put together. And you're just thinking how you hung mine in that directional, by following the cardinal directions. Like, yeah, that's how they were made. So that's just.
That was the kind of after, and I knew the titles. I saw when the show was at the Tavi, what was it, earlier last year.
Yeah.
And so I knew the titles for it, but then when we were unpacking and conditioning and setting things out, it's like, no, that works. I kind of like that, just because it's like you're just spinning along the wall. So
No, I think you did a great job, and I like the fact that they're both separated as well. I mean,
you could do, you can make it work. You can make it work, and you can. But I like also. I mean, we did. You had the 2 panels in there, and I just put the Nadaga stuff and formatted them. But that having that at the start to Michael's, and we had it at the start to yours, like just kind of the 2 views, the 2, treatment to mediums.
Mhm.
Yeah, but when you come, right now we in the inner gallery, we have our juried student show up. So it's the annual juried student show. And then when you'll come out, Mike, it'll be our capstone exhibition for this year, right? Seniors, so you'll see that too. And then,
yeah, it just looks like it's the perfect amount of work for the architecture of the space, and the spacing looks great. And
it fit really well. I was glad that there was 12 and 12 and 12, I think, or 13 and 12. Any more, it would have been too many.
Yep.
No, it worked well. It's kind of a fun, I don't know, it's interesting too, because with your show and the work you have, one of the most traditional forms of art, which is interpreting landscapes, or looking at place and landscapes, and then the 2 radically different approaches, I think it's an interesting parallel to look at.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's super fun. I mean, I don't think it can get much polar opposite, like
Much
way
different.
of addressing the landscape too, right? Which is nice though, because they're both very abstracted, but completely different ways. So
Yeah, and like looking at process too. So I mean, works on paper, of course, but looking at process and screen printing, and either you're using graphite either before you print or maybe sometimes after, and then with Matt's, yours, Matt, like looking at just so much. I mean, both have layers and layering, but with Matt's, there's so much layering and curvilinear treatment to line, and it's cool. It's really cool.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think as we were making it, I think that we can save this for the talk part too, but the conversations that we had while we were air quotes here working at the museum, right? And just those long conversations about landscape and place and what are we doing, and the work has evolved so much in that relationship of that, again, quote unquote, shared studio time, even though it wasn't shared studio time. They were great conversations. So that's to me what the work was, the good stuff, right?
yeah, and that type of I guess back and forth and interplay of ideas is all really good. But I just got that it is 7 o'clock. It is time for an artist talk. So I'm gonna grab students. See how many people. It's the end of the semester, and we always end up with, a little bit less. But.
Yep.
All right, we'll have Matt and Mike.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to grab everybody together. Okay. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming to the Art Center tonight for the opening reception from Matt Anderson and Michael Conlon. It was a really, so I'm going to tell a little story. It was a really fun show to hang. We only had 2 hours to do it in. We had or 2.5 hours, and we had to take down Sharon and hang this show. And it came together so nicely because I think just how the work relates to each other. There's obvious color and shape relationships with Mike's work, the directional theme, and then the shift from the board mounted on board paper to that. It came together so nicely, and it was really a treat to hang, and really a treat to hang on the wall and to see hung and see installed. So I'd like to thank you guys for proposing the show to the Art Gallery Association and having it too. This show was sponsored by the North Dakota Art Gallery Association with support from the North Dakota Council of the Arts. So with that, I'd like everybody to give a hand to our artists who graciously joined us via Zoom. Thank you, gentlemen. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit maybe about how the show came together. We were just mentioning that before this, or just take it in a direction that you both want to in terms of.
Matt, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you to the North Dakota Art Gallery Association and the Northwest Art Gallery for hosting this exhibition. Just as I was talking to Greg a little bit earlier, it's been nice to see different interpretations of how this show has been put together, other galleries as it's traveled around the state. And yeah, the word conversation just keeps kind of popping into my mind because these works are clearly very different from each other, Mike's work and my work. But when I think on the one hand, it seems like so long ago that I made this show that I hardly remember. I mean, I remember, but I really have to reach back into where I was as an artist then compared to where I'm at now. But what has always been there is a conversation with of sorts with Mike and I talking, conversations, just you're looking back at my own works when I see this work and how it's hung is a totally different conversation than how other galleries have shown it. But I think it has always worked to kind of address different interpretations of, as you mentioned, Greg, like landscape, which has an enormous history itself. But yeah, I'm just kind of absorbing. I so wish I could be there. I was there on Monday to drop off the show, and even thinking about like the landscape where you guys are at in Minot is so different than how I made these works in landscape I'm involved with, where over here everything is just absolutely pancake flat and divided by grids, and everything is squared up and all kind of nice and neat and orderly. And driving out to Minot, I came up on 52 from New Rockford, and I've never seen hills like that in North Dakota. That was my first time coming kind of from that south central part of the state, and it was just incredible. And I can't imagine what my work would look like if I was living in a landscape like you have around you. But it's nice. I think these are like the conversations Mike and I would have a lot while working together. Was conversations about landscape and how it influences the way we look at things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the really fun conversations, at least for me, and all of them, like hanging out with Matt and at work and having those conversations are always fun. But the ones where we're talking about about landscape, but it got beyond landscape, where we're talking about even just the idea of place or the idea of a landscape, not just the motif of the landscape, but what it can communicate, and then how are we going to investigate those. I think that was really, really fun and really exciting. And again, this seems like a lifetime ago when we made these works, but it wasn't that long ago, right? It's only a year or so. But the good thing is, like, having those conversations, that relationship, and just talking about art just very, very casually. It got kind of thick sometimes. Like we had to put our boots on a couple times and really like go through the muck of what we're talking about. But that's when it gets really fun too. But those conversations and the work that you see there today has really changed my my approach and my current body of work as well, because it's just really kind of pushed me where I am and what I'm making now. So it's a direct, my current work is a direct reference of what you guys see right there. And that collaboration, if you can call it that, more conversational collaboration, it just really spurred the work. And I highly encourage people, if they have the opportunity to talk and communicate with other people about their artwork, they should. I mean, I typically like to just wall myself off in my studio, but sometimes if you start actually communicating with other people and making stuff, it can take you some really fun, interesting directions. And again, absolutely, thank you for showing our work. It looks like a beautiful space.
You'll have to come see it, and I'm sure Matt, you'll have to come back out too at some point or another and stay longer. So I wanted to maybe ask a couple of questions about each of your work, and if there's anybody else with any questions as well. But one of the ones that I kind of have a question for you, Matt, too, and that's the nature of the pieces that are mounted on boards and the cardinal directions. And with the process that you used, the materials that you used, were were those materials at all influenced? Did you pick certain materials because of the landscapes you were looking at, or was it an exploration of the different materials? Like wax pigment and ink, but then also burning the pieces. I was curious about that too, and what you were responding to with that.
Yeah, this was again in talking. I've never really considered myself to be a process artist, or even work with kind of like, you know, process being heavily influential over any previous art pieces I was trying to make. But in talking with Mike, he was pretty clear in our conversations that he definitely saw that I was process based, and in like we talk about having these kind of, you know, sometimes we like kind of lean into each other, right? Like I would just like I'm not doing process work. It's like I'm, you know, blah blah blah. And I try to, you know, come up with something else, but no, it's clearly process based. So when you talk about the like the directional movement, like, well, it came about because all of those canvases, all those pieces were made during the roots of them is during that one particular summer. So each one of those boards, I literally had them out in my yard around me in a circle with facing each of the cardinal directions. So to see them now on a wall in a linear fashion is like, well, they started off in a circle on the ground, and I was stood in the center of that circle and added the pigment to them, just responding to the color of the sky, which is that kind of like, oh, it's that really particular kind of light cerulean blue. And then that kind of early, that's, I don't know, kind of early spring. So there's that light green, but then there's also this kind of brown color. And I purposefully colored that background all in the same time period to give each piece unity. And after that, they were all moved inside my studio, and the drawing style on top of that using charcoal really was me just like I would in my own way explore the landscape. So honestly, what it is, I just like I love riding bike. So I'd ride bike on these gravel roads, and Mike and I would talk about how the landscape is divided into these, sometimes into these lines and quadrants and things like that. So these are the things I'm thinking of while I'm on my bike. And I would like look at that line on the road and ride that line, and you come up to the next intersection that's going east-west, right? You're riding straight and it's the line you're on, but then there's an intersection ahead of you, and that's the new horizon. And you can ride on that if you want to. And just there's all kinds of exploration in my own head of the things I'm thinking about on each one of these kind of ventures out. And I try to bring that back into the studio, but use charcoal, because for me that references the trees, and it gives a nice organic line. And then work out the kind of charcoal base, then kind of go at them again later after putting them down for a while, because I'm sure most of you experienced this. You work on something for long enough or really intensely, at least for me, I tend to lose where I'm at. Like I can't see it anymore. I have to put it down and put it away and let my mind clear and work on something else for me to then revisit a previous piece and work on it again, so I can see it like it's something new. So while those ideas are all rolling around in my head, each piece is being worked on, being put back on the shelf, work on the others, bring it back out like it's a big circular, it's a cycle as I'm working on these pieces. So when they finally got to the point where I felt that they were done, it's a layover from another art series that I was working on, where I was working with fire and burning material. And so burning the edges, to me, it's at this time, this is the last time I did it, was where I burned the edge, and it's more of a personal ceremony for me to, at that point, to burn this edge. It's kind of like this seals these pieces and they're done. And it also, I do like the way it took away the hard edge from those boards and gave it that organic edge. but so the fire, like burning those edges, and I know it's like because even as I'm doing it, like I was questioning it, like did I really need to do that? I don't know. Like I said, it was a layover from previous body of work where I was intentionally burning, and now I'm just kind of using it as like it's kind of a layover element. So I think it even looking at work too, like it's like while I'm like Mike and I are working on these pieces, I'm also looking back at my own trajectory and art making trajectory. Like Mike, like his pieces right now are based off of pieces he made then, and that's the thing. Like I'm working on a body of work too now that has some of these elements, but others I realize I've left. Like like I look at it now, like wow, I haven't worked with really organic material in probably 3 different series of work from now. So it is. So I think, in that way, Mike is right. This has been very much a process for me, especially looking back on it.
Thank you, Matt. I'm going to see if there's anybody else with a question right now. Yes. Collins.
I want to know about Mike's color palette.
Okay. Did you hear that, Mike?
What's that?
Question about your color palette and what influenced the colors in the prints in the series.
Yeah, so like Matt said, so the colors of his sky or his ground was influenced by what was in front of him, right? And my colors have no direct reference to the landscape whatsoever. And that's perfectly okay and perfectly fine with me. I was literally just making the colors that I wanted to make at that particular time, whether they complemented or contrasted with the color that was laid down before. I was completely okay with that. I was just looking at what was in the jar at the moment and how I'm going to just play with the color that I like at that particular time in place. And then I made it, and then I would screen it on, wash it away and let that dry, and maybe I picked it back up or maybe I didn't. So my work is more conceptual based, talking about the landscape. It is not a direct reference to a place, unlike Matt's, and I'm not looking at any directions. I'm not looking at a particular road or particular like place in the landscape. I'm more interested in the idea of the landscape itself and where lines intersect and where lines in the landscape and the horizon points, they just kind of where things meet. So sometimes things overlap, right? Sometimes the colors overlap, sometimes they just meet. And sometimes there's tons of different layers really overlapping each other. That's where my investigation really takes place. And that's what interests me, not the landscape in terms of like my early undergrad work. I left school for Christmas and came back to Williston. That's where I'm originally from. And I did an entire series of work called US 2 and 85, right, where the 2 highways meet. And there are lots of photographs all about that particular place. And that really interested me. 15 years on now. That doesn't interest me nearly as much as the idea of those interactions and where those lines meet, if that makes sense. So that's basically what I'm investigating. So like in the statement, I think I mentioned something at the end where kind of walking the line between the abstract and the non-objective. So the work is definitely non-objective, but it's abstract in the terms that it's based on the concept of the landscape, right? So there isn't a particular landscape or an object that I'm documenting or abstracting. It's more about the idea of the place or idea of interactions of the landscape. So yes, a long story short, colors, just kind of making them up as I go along, just having fun.
I'm gonna follow it up with just kind of a, a working question and a process question. So when you're screening, I'm assuming that these are, additions, that you're making an addition of these prints and are you mentioned that you would, you pick a color, you have a shape or a design. How much, I guess, advanced planning? It's screen printing, but are you like photo emulsion? Are you designing kind of these layouts digitally or collage or how? And yeah.
Yeah, no, I spend a lot of time in my sketchbook. So I think that's very important. So definitely make sure everybody's always drawing, right? Sketching. But no, those aren't editions. Those are all one-off prints. I don't work in edition. They're just as much paintings and drawings as they are prints, right? It's just that one mode of making that I utilized for that particular body of work. For that work, there is no photo emulsion. It's just tape. So I lay down just masking tape and I take it off, and it's like a ridiculous amount of trial and error. And Matt's actually been in my studio here at the university, and he's seen the paintings that I'm working on right now. And it's just, I'll spend 2 weeks taping before I even put any paint down, just like making the shapes and the forms that I want, right? So that's what that process is. So I just making arbitrary lines, just making a false grid, if you will, and that's what the graphite is. And then just spending lots of time with paper, just kind of laying paper down over the final paper piece, if that makes sense, and then get something that I thought was close, and then I would then put the tape on the screen and run ink through it, wash it out, take the tape off, and then that's done, right? So there's a lot of process in terms of thinking, but not a lot of process in terms of making. So it's kind of, yeah, the opposite of what, not that Matt isn't thinking, but Rick, he's doing a lot of process, a lot of mark making. And my mark making is basically in my sketchbook or the final pull of the squeegee.
That's okay. Yep. And I was curious too as to what you were stenciling with, if it was something you were putting on the screen or
I just use masking tape, and I mean that goes back all the way back to when I was an undergrad and hanging out in the darkroom and making tons of photographs. I always destroyed my negatives, so I always just had the one off. I've never made edition, much to my professor's chagrin, but I'm more interested in that idea of the one off the original, right? That there's only the one that exists, like there would be for sculpture for the most part, right? You can make multiple casts and stuff, or like there it is for painting. So in photography and printmaking, I like that idea as well as the one-off.
Yep.
Yeah, the idea of the multiple is really exciting and really fascinating, but it just doesn't fit my practice.
When you learn about photography and printmaking, that's kind of like the main thrust, is that it's multiples. You have an addition, more than one. So it's always interesting to see different forms of, singular prints.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from student guests? Peter?
I don't really have a question, but I have like an observation that is so like Matthew's art is super masculine, I think. It has like super just so much energy. So like it looks like the artist would have like a lot of tattoos. So I honestly thought that this was Michael's art, because like Michael has a lot of tattoos, and like Matthew looks like he would do those ones. So I was like, so it's really interesting that you can't really guess what the artist looks like, because yeah, that's what I thought.
I need to get some more tattoos.
Yeah.
Appearances can be deceiving.
That is a really interesting observation though, because I think that that's, yeah, in investigating work, you'll find all kinds of just those, I think Mike and I's work complement each other a lot, but yeah, we just come at things differently, but I don't know, that observation is going to stick with me for a little bit, because you're like, there is something about when I'm making that work, I very much had to be present, right? I had to get back from physically experiencing some kind of bike ride, right? Whether on that ride there was a storm, or it's blistering hot, or it's freaking windy, or whatever the case is, or my senses are all fired up, like all my senses, like I'm hot, sweaty, blistered, sunburnt, cold, whatever the case is, right? And I get back and I bring that experience directly, try to put that onto a canvas, do some mark making as I'm just right there with the work, right? It's physical, right? I just had to be right with it, where I think that's part of like this flat landscape. I don't know, to me, maybe it exists elsewhere too, but for me, this landscape here, that it is so open and receptive to almost any way you want to like come at it. I've had other artists who've been coming through the gallery recently also kind of worked with this kind of flatter part of North Dakota, and they talk about the same thing. Just like there's this land, I mean, yes, Red River Valley is super fertile, like literally, like you plant anything out here, it's going to grow. But it's also just like you can come at this with any idea you want, and I can't quite articulate it, but there's something about it, like Mike and I approach this from two different ways, but it still works, and it's rooted in that kind of, I don't know, openness that I don't know if it's a landscape or if it's the idea of it, right? I mean, it's both. It's just the way it's somehow like these humongous open skies. Just there's a lot of room for interpretation.
And to piggyback on that, so like I said earlier, I'm from Western North Dakota, even further west than Minot, right out in Williston, and that's what I see as open. And even being on this side of the state, I know it is open compared to other places that I've lived, but there's so many trees and so many artificial plantings and that constructed grid that is everywhere that you cannot escape. It's kind of claustrophobic at times. Sometimes I feel even more at home if I'm in a city than I do even here in Grand Forks and in the surrounding area, because it just feels so artificial, and that grid and those markers, and it's very, very interesting. I've never seen or experienced anything like it, and of all the places I've lived across the country. So I think that's another good thing that Matt and I were able to feed off of each other, because when I think of my North Dakota landscape, my brain is going instantly to Western North Dakota, the rolling hills and the openness and literally the sky that goes on forever. And when I'm on this side of the state, I don't get that feeling. So it's like that internal dialogue back and forth, and then that dialogue between Matt and I back and forth is just, it's super valuable.
So the message there is cultivate your relationships with your fellow student artists and develop dialogues, critique with your friends.
Yep.
Show your work to other people. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just going to be a better artist for it. I promise you that. And I'm not a social person whatsoever. Like, so, yeah, just talk to one another. It'll all be okay. It's just art.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up for our artist talk. I'd like to thank you both. We can stay on the line. I can show you around again. But let's give Matt and Mike a hand. I hope to see you guys here. Thank you again. Erica, what's your favorite piece?
Oh, no.
Oh, I know, yeah.
You really put your arm
No, that's all right. So I'll show you, because Mike, you haven't seen it before, but I'll walk through the inner gallery. I'll get my laptop and I'll turn the camera on and I'll just show you the whole space. I can give you a quick tour digitally, or I can wait until you come out to take the show down too.
You know, I have to go home and put some kiddos to bed. So I'll take the rain check and we can do it in person. And then just if you want to send me those dates, what works best for you. I'm done teaching 2 weeks, and our next week I'll be done. So just let me know what works best for you guys and I'll jump in the car and head over there.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Perfect.
And then next time I'm in Grand Forks, which will be later this summer, I'll have to stop by.
Absolutely. I'd love
Matt,
to do a studio visit.
over to the apartment too, so.
Yeah.
So,
Let's do it.
all right.
Go grab some lunch too. All right. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yep. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Matt. It was good time. So, and I appreciate it, and I know the students that came appreciate it as well. Yeah. All right.
See you later,
Sorry.
Greg.
Yeah.
Bye.
This one. Yeah.